All right, whānau, thank you so much, everyone, for joining and being patient with us. We appreciate your understanding. What we're going to do is I'm going to get Te Rua. We're going to start off with a karakia before we start our session. Is that okay?
Pai, ka pai. Um, Nā reira, ngā mihi o te pō kia koutou e te iwi. Me tīmata tēnei ki wānanga o te pō I roto I te karake, me karake tātou. Tūtaua mai I runga, tūtaua mai I raro, tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te Mauri tū, te Mauri ora, ki te katoa. Haumi e hui e kai ki e.
Tai ki he.
All right. Okay, kia ora, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this Wednesday evening. I can't believe that it's workshop number 3, and I do appreciate you all taking the time to be with myself, Rachel, and Sam, who are representing Westpac, to talk about looking after your money and how to make good choices with money as well. So we do hope that you enjoy tonight's session. You got us for about an hour and a half. So with the last workshop, make sure you're using the chat function as well to pop in, kōrero. I do appreciate everyone having a really good kōrero in that chat. If you've got any pātai, pop them in there as well. If you want to just pop yourself off mute and ask a question, please go ahead. We'd love to hear from you as well. So the key thing for tonight's session is all about good money habits, and hopefully through tonight's workshop and through our kōrero, it's really a good starting point to get people thinking around, hey, what does a good money habit look like? And if I don't have a good money habit, what does that look like, and what can I do to maybe change and shift that through? And what you'll see is that we'll have a few links that either Rachel or Sam will pop into the chat function that you can access. So really encourage you to click on those links to find out other resources and other ways that you can get in that space as well. All right, whānau, so we're just going to move through, and as we've done with previous workshops, really important from a Westpac perspective is that we inform you that we're not here to give you guys personalized individual financial advice. We're here to provide information, general in nature, and if you do require that individualized financial advice, we encourage you, go and talk to your bank, have a kōrero with them, whether it be us here at Westpac or maybe at ANZ, Kiwi Bank, Cooperative Bank, SBS, or any other institution you might have your money in. Make sure you're having a kōrero with them to make sure that you've got your account set up correctly, or if you find yourself in a little bit of trouble, make sure that you're getting in front of it beforehand and having that good conversation. I'm just going to pop that on screen for everyone to have a little bit of a look at for the next few minutes, for the next couple of seconds. But what we're going to do is pop in the chat the link to that disclaimer where you can give that a bit of a read just to inform you guys around how we're going to run today's workshop. And again, just reiterating that, it's part of Westpac's responsibility, and it's really nice that we've teamed up with TNN to provide these workshops for the next fortnight. We've got 3 more. I can't believe we've got 3 more, and we wrap things up. But really part of us getting out there to talk about education, to talk about financial well-being in all its formats. One thing I often say in a lot of workshops is, here in Aotearoa, us Kiwis, we're not good at talking about money or pūtia, and quite often we see it as a subject, and I can certainly see it amongst Pacifica people, right? That it's a bit taboo or a bit tapu to talk about pūtia, but I really encourage us. It's not about asking your family members or your friends or your whānau, or what's your salary, how much do you earn. It's not about that. It's about, hey, what are you doing in your process? What are you doing in the way you're looking after your money that's either getting you ahead, or you're paying debt off, or you're making some really good choices? What is it in that process or in that way that you're doing that I can take something away and apply it to myself and maybe into my own money journey or habit, so to speak? All right, whānau. Now we're just going to give you a bit of a breakdown on that. I know we just talked about it, giving a bit of a highlight around, hopefully by today's session or tonight, by the end of tonight, that you guys will feel a little bit confident, around identifying good and bad spending habits. Because if I think about it, and if I'm honest to myself, I do remember when I was in my 20s, I was terrible with money. Yeah, I used to spend money left, right, and center. Those who have been with us from Workshop 1, I talk about my story when I used to work at Pack and Save here in Auckland. I used to, bought myself a BMW. My first car was a BMW, 328i. Couldn't afford it, lowered on mags, had all the nice cool tints. But one thing was I quickly learned I could not service it, nor could I afford the petrol in that vehicle at that time. So it really taught me a big lesson. And now what I do, I don't have a car myself. We just have one family car, because my other car that I used to have was a Mazda 3 that's now been given to my son to look after and operate as well. So I do apologize if I've gone a bit dark on the screen, because the room has, I might just quickly set up whānau to get the light going. Oh yeah, so it might be it really is a night class with me shadowing in there. All right, team. Now, what we're going to do is move through to a bit of a wrap up on what we learned from workshop number last workshop we did last fortnight. And I'll probably bring in, who did I have? I had Rachel and Divya, right? I had Rachel and Divya in that last fortnight workshop. And with that one there was around sort of talking about, really making sure that we had the element around that. Rach, might just get you to pop in here and pop yourself off mute. Was there some key lessons that you learned from last fortnight that you wanted to share with the whānau?
Kia ora. So that was a really good session, actually. So we talked a little bit about, I think, oh man, there was a lot of questions that we had come through, and a lot of engagement, actually. So we talked a bit about mortgages, we talked about insurances, and yeah, I can't remember the awesome answers that you had, but it was, it was really good.
Yeah, appreciate that, Rach. And for what we're going to do, I'm just going to make sure that what we're talking about, because I think we actually had money habits beforehand, but if we go through, I'm just going to make sure that that is what we're looking at. And I guess the key part to what we're looking at today is, if we are going over this messaging, it's really important to think about, what those good money habits are. And if you look at what we have on screen, right, so those tiles that we have really represent some habits that you can help with, getting better with money. The first one that's on the screen, right, save for what you want instead of borrowing. And I think that's really important, right, whānau? Because, at the moment, a lot of us, if we think, people tend to, jump on some of those, quick type access to credit. And when I say credit, borrowing money or getting access to money, that's through like the likes of Afterpay and the like. So, that's really an opportunity to maybe sit back and then take a step back and go, hey, if I'm going to borrow this money, what's the impacts of me borrowing this money? Am I going to take time to do that as well? So, for Sam, I'm just going to bring you in here, Sam, as well. Is there anything across those tiles that you like around sort of good money habits, or ones that you've started yourself?
Let me just review these. Was pay bills on time? Obviously, is a good one. Otherwise, you tend to get charged a 10% penalty or whatnot, depending on what it is. Don't spend more than you earn. It's another goodie. It comes back to the Afterpay type stuff. And then save money each month, I think, is something we try to do. Basically all of them pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Could you fix expenses? Be honest. Yeah, be honest. Be clear on why you're budgeting. If you want to save for something, then if you're committed to it, then you make it kind of work, really. And you just, I think we've discussed it in one of the previous workshops. You can put money into an account in which you don't have access to, and if you need access to it, you kind of almost have to go into the branch or something to remove the excesses type thing. So kind of make it as hard as possible to get access to those funds.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good one, that out of sight, out of mind. So if you do find yourself thinking that, by seeing my money, if I do see money in my account, I'm just going to withdraw it out, a good option is to, pop it into another bank account or another bank and make it challenging for yourself to access it, right? Whether it be, setting up a separate password to access it, or potentially, if you, like Sam mentioned, got to go to the branch, and sometimes trying to get to a branch can be very challenging, very difficult in that space. One thing I do like to do, is a good habit of mine, is that when I put money into my savings account, often I always think about it, or my mindset is to think about it as a bill. So quite often, when you pay a bill, what happens is that you don't get your money back, right? When you think of it, when you pay something or you pay a bill, is that you don't tend to get your money back. So when you're putting money into a savings account, transferring money into it, certainly consider that as a mindset that you should think about when you're putting money into another account. Going, hey, that's a bill. It's actually your savings, but you're just going to call it a bill, just so it just tells your frame of mind to go, hey, let's just leave it on the side there. But again, whānau, use that chat function, let us know any other good habits or tips or tricks or practical ways that you sort of make sure that you're putting yourself or your money into work, make sure it works for you, is that as well. So one of the other ones that I've got here is be realistic, right? In that sort of third row, the second one in. So be realistic. So that's really important, right? And quite often I talk to a lot of people and they're often telling me that, I'm going to put like $200 away. And I go, I said to them, how's your savings going? They're like, good. And they're, I'm going to put $200 away into my account. I'm like, man, okay, that's cool. And I go, have you put $200 into your account on a regular basis before? And quite often the response is, no, I actually haven't. I'm just going to do it because I'm really focused on getting to my goal. And I go, usually what happens is that when people go, 100 and go all out, what tends to happen is they start to take money out of it, right? And then they transfer X amount back into their account. Before they know it, that $200 they started with in their savings account is now dwindled down or reduced down to about $50 because they've had to take $150 out. So the key part to that is to make it realistic, and the habit is actually to start small. That's really important, is that we want to focus on starting a habit to make it start small, because the smaller you start a habit and the more regular you do it on often, the easier it will be. Because often they say with a habit, it takes about 66 days. That's the sort of science number around starting a habit. That could look slightly different for a lot of people, but on average, it takes about 66 days. So you can imagine if you say to yourself, hey, if I put $1 away every day into my savings account, I'll put it away, because $1 just means it's quite easy, right? You don't have to look at it, don't have to worry about it. Just put that $1 away, and after 66 days, right, that's $66. You'll be like, oh yeah, sweet. So hopefully that habit by then you've just created by putting those small steps in and stuff. But I'm going to come to Sam and Rach. Is there anything in the chat function that we've picked up on that whānau are doing at the moment?
So we have got a comment here from just being honest and review and update your budget as things change, which is pretty good advice there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally agree with that as well. So, with money habits, so quite often when you're running a budget or you're running a plan with your money, right, things change. So sometimes your circumstances can change, whether that might be a loss of job or reduction in hours, and meaning reduced income. Something might pop up, right? There could be a funeral or tangihanga that might happen, so you might have to contribute as well. School, kids, quite often I was doing a workshop today, and the person, they live in Dunedin. Their son goes to Dunedin, and he's just been asked to see if they can join. They're going to a Japan trip. It's going to cost them like $3,800. So the mum is trying to figure out what to do and how to pay for that trip. And so we sort of talked about maybe when the period you need to pay that $3,800 is, start to work backwards from there to now. How much do you get paid in that workplace that you work for? They get paid weekly. So just trying to talk about, okay, each week now, how much do I need to pay? Or what are the sort of key moments that I need to make, either the deposit or the next couple of payments and across that as well. Anything else? I'm just looking here, whānau, pay bills on time. Yep, that's a given. Because when you pay bills on time, whānau, the key thing around that is that it helps your credit score. And quite often you might hear people talk about, money, but also talk about your credit score. Sometimes you hear a lot of, a lot of businesses talk about, hey, if you got bad credit, don't worry, come and see us, yada, yada. Especially those car dealers. You often hear car dealers talk about, we've got all these, whether it be a radio advert or you hear it on see it on TV or something, they often talk about, hey, bad credit, don't worry, have a talk to us. But you want to get ahead of that, right? You want to pay your bills on time as much as possible. Quite often when you do pay your bills on time, they often provide discounts, those companies, especially like big, the retailers in relation to like, power retailers. So you think of like Meridian, Mercury, Power Shop, Frank Energy, a lot of those outfits tend to offer a form of discount if you pay X amount by then. But if you can't and you can only pay the minimum, that's okay as well, right? Maybe it's an opportunity to think about, hey, where can I move money? The old saying, rob Peter to pay Paul, or pay, rob Paul to pay Peter, and all those sort of things is really important. And let's be, yeah, absolutely fine. I was just looking at the table myself just to make sure that we're covering it off as well. So one thing we do in our whare is that with the boss lady, I might have mentioned this before, but with our food, when we have, because that's the sort of the three major groups that your expenses get, your household absorbs, right? Is you got to pay your rent or you got to pay your mortgage. So that's number one cost. The second cost usually relates to your utilities, so paying for power, water, and the like, and all those other expenses. And then you got the third one, which is the second one also includes food and stuff, but the third one's around transport. So putting petrol in the car, that could be all public transport, could be a mixture of both. Those tend to be the three biggest expenses that you have in a household. But for us in our whānau, in our whare, is that when we do when we do shopping, we actually use our diary. We've got this diary, we had the spare diary lying around. So what we do is that we meal plan. So we plan out our meals for the fortnight. We get paid fortnightly. So we plan out our meals for the fortnight and we write down what we're going to have. And so quite often we do repeat some of our meals, but what it does mean, it just sort of structures us around, okay, cool. We know on a Monday it's tacos. On Tuesday, we know that it's going to be, chop suey. Number 3, day 3, we know all those particular days what food is, right? And then also it means when we go shopping, and when we go, and usually we shop online, because when you do shop online, it just means it really tightens up. You're not sort of attracted by what's on special or what else is happening in the supermarket when you go in person. So quite often we do our shopping online and we just pick all the specials. But coming back to that piece around why that habit's been really good for us is that we've been able to make sure our budget's really good, right? And quite often we might one of the meals might end up being a meal the second night. So that meal that would have been on Wednesday just shifts to the Thursday. And then we end up having a spare meal the following fortnight, which would then mean, okay, cool, we don't have to spend money the next fortnight on that meal. So it just really gives an opportunity to focus on that. And it helps the kids, right? When the tamariki come to me and they go, oh, what's for dinner? I go, hey, look in the orange diary. You'll see that. And when they go look in the orange diary, I go, hey, now that you've seen what was for dinner, can you start preparing what we need, what vegetables or what stuff you have to cook the rice. So it just keeps them all involved in that space as well. All right, team, now we're just going to move into leak factors, but I do hope sort of money habits, and I think Rach is going to, or either Sam's just going to pop in some links and some guides around, money habits. Those online links are going through to Sorted and Money Hub. Quite often they've got some really good guides and stories around that as well.
I'll do that, Wazza. I'll do that.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Sam. And Sam, I'm probably going to bring you in, Sam, because, I know you've got your young tamariki and you've sort of, is there anything that you're trying to teach them around money habits and making good choices that you want to teach them in the future?
Oh, try to. My oldest is only 8, but we do a job, get some pocket money, but she's got a little bit of money in her wallet. But then on the other hand, for long-term kind of goals, we've got a kind of separate. Well, I've got 2 things actually. We've got a whānau account with her through, dare I say it, Ngāi Tahu, in which we put funds into. We've got a kind of a savings account which we put funds into, and then she's only kind of started asking about that recently. What's it for and all that kind of stuff. So kind of teaching her at a young age about long-term savings, but then also her little wallet, she's got about $60 in there. And if she wants to go out and go get some treats or whatever from Super Value in Ngātawahi on the way home, they go, did you bring your wallet? And do you really want to spend it on treats, or do you want to spend it on something else? So just early stages of getting to think about money habits, you could say.
I love that, and I like how you say to her, hey, do you really want to, pop that question to her, do you really want to spend your money on that, right? And I like how she has her money structured, and quite often it's really important to think about, is it an opportunity to, is it worth it? Is it worth me spending my hard-earned money on that item? Sometimes you want to take the opportunity to have a, guilt-free was it guilt-free money spend? And it just depends what that looks like in that space.
The trade-offs aren't that great though, was it? It's either treaties or I think it's either Five Nights at Freddy's or Robux. So the options aren't great all around, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, it just reminded me from the last fortnight whānau, we had Rach, and Rach, you were talking about how we were gonna, you're gonna review your accounts because you loved your, your phone games, you and your husband. There was, what was it, that game you were talking about? And it had a funny name, but how has it been the last fortnight with reflecting on this money spent on that game or the app?
That's a great question. So probably since we tried to apply for finance, we actually reflected on that. That was like just a normal app game that came up as what was it? Cash something, eh? It was something that was very obviously looked like it was gambling, but it wasn't gambling. Yeah, so yeah, no, we definitely review what we're spending our money on.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things around sort of habits, and I'm sorry, Fun, I'm just focusing on this habits because, there's that saying that I've heard before, right? The saying goes, it's not your salary that makes you rich, it's your spending habits. Because if you really break that down, that quote or that saying really is really powerful in relation to your relationship with money or your understanding with money or your thinking and feeling around money, right? I'll say it again, right? Your salary it's not your salary that makes you rich, it's your spending habits. Because, you could be earning, say, 110 grand and, was it with that 110 grand or say you're earning 80 grand a year, right? Or 40 grand. But if you're spending like $45,000 a year or you're spending $85,000 a year, but your salary is only 80,000 or 40,000, you're actually spending more than you earn. So that really means that you're spending more than you actually. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a moment of to reflect and to think about, oh shoot, when I get my salary, I'm spending on either items that might potentially mean I should be saving it, or I could be paying that towards debt, right? And I think one of the other things we talked about is that the foundations with being good with money is actually having a plan, having a budget, and again, it's around making sure that that budget. Try not to use the word budget, change it up, switch it up to another word, but when you do have the opportunity and you might have a little bit of money left over before you get your next salary, you could have $5 in there, right? Or you could have $23 in there. But what you want to do is don't spend it. I've got the spare money that I haven't been able to allocate because I've done my budget really well. You got a couple of options, right? You got three options really when you think about it. You can either spend it. I highly encourage try not to spend it. Or number two, pay debt off. Really, if you can, in times like we are in at the moment, economic downturn. I know the OCR has been cut, but if we think about carrying debt when you're trying to save or anything like that, try your best to pay off debt as much as possible as well. And then you got third option is either put it into savings or an investment. Usually with the investment piece, you can maybe put it into your KiwiSaver. So if you've got $3.50 left over, sweep that into your KiwiSaver account, which then hopefully means it locks your money away and it just keeps you into that habit. And one thing I've talked about before is my wife. She's got a habit of sweeping X amount of dollars from her account, right? And Sam and Rach know this quite often, but if she's got a nail account that she puts money into to pay for her nails, and with that nail account, what she does is that every time she has maybe her balance might be $52.50. So what she does is transfers the $2.50 into her nail account, and it just builds up over a few weeks, and then once it's built to an amount where she go get your nails done, she books herself in to get her nails done because she doesn't like seeing the odd dollars and cents in her account on her main account. She just likes seeing whole numbers. And it's funny, our son has picked up that habit as well. So he often puts it into his savings account, all the little odd amounts. It really brings me into a nice story where we've done a workshop with young 18-year-olds here at Westpac. They're young high school leavers that have come through to Westpac and come through to our contact center. We've run some financial workshops with them. And one of them was about KiwiSaver. And that KiwiSaver story I want to tell you is that, I said to the said to the tamariki, okay, hey guys, pull out your phones. Let's see what your KiwiSaver is. It's really important to think about, the transactions are going in, making sure that the tax that you can see, or not the tax, sorry, you can see the IID putting money into your KiwiSaver, your employer's contribution, your contribution, and all those good things. And then the young guy's like, oh, hey, I come over here, I'll show you something. I went over to him and he showed me his phone and showed me his transactions. And through those transactions, I could see he was putting in like $1.60, $1.20, 76 cents, really all these odd dollar amounts and cents. And I said to him, wow, man, what are you doing here? This is interesting. He goes, oh, yeah. And same thing, right? He said, I don't like seeing the dollars and cents in my account. So I just transfer all the little amounts that are in there so that I can see the zeros at the end of my account. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. So I had to stop the workshop, say to everyone, guess what? Etu, his name was Etu. Guess what Etu's doing? He's actually putting money aside on a regular basis and just does it manually, right? And I said, hey, you're only 18. By the time you're like my age, when you're 40, that's going to, really look like, hopefully a few $100 more than you actually did instead of spending it. So again, coming back to those habits, right? Those habits can be created, and then hopefully the team will be putting in some links around, there's some good books around habits, right? And there's one called, Atomic Habits by James Clear, and his sort of method around getting a habit started is around habit stacking. And what you do with habit stacking is that you pair up, a habit with a good habit. Say, for example, you might be going to, and one of the articles that you'll see here on the link is through Sorted, but the example is that, you go buy coffee. And with the element around going to buy coffee, you'll be thinking, okay, cool. I take a moment, I've gone, bought a coffee, I felt good, I've paid for it, but that's a good time to maybe pull out your phone or, look at what transactions you've had for the last few days. And again, just really being mindful around, okay, cool, I've spent some money or I've done this habit, which is going to buy my coffee every morning, but I've now paired it with actually reviewing my account. So every time I get my coffee, I take 30 minutes to review my account. And the same thing might apply if you look at it with your partner, right? You might be doing some housework on the weekend with your partner, your wife, husband, or the kids, and then you'll be finished and you feel good because, the house looks clean and all those good things are done. But maybe it's a good time to sit down, review your goals that you have, or just make sure you're doing a bit of a money check-in just to make sure that you're on top of your finances and making sure that if there's anything coming up, that you're prepared and ready to go in that as well. So I spent a bit of time talking about habits because I'm a big advocate to making sure that you're setting yourself up with some good habits, right? Trying to change some of those old habits. If you do have some old habits, try to think about replacing them with good habits, and that could be just making sure that if your savings and you're not haven't been really good at it, maybe it's a good opportunity, like end of the week, put in $7 into your savings account, because usually $7 doesn't sound like much, but it's the habit that you're going to get to, right? It's only $1 a day, or if you want to, and you're on your break and you've got transfer $1 into that there, or maybe it's an opportunity if you're carrying like an overdraft or a vehicle loan, build some money up and then maybe use that habit around saving that money, paying debt off as fast as possible. Is there, and again, whānau, just keep popping in the chat, any other tips and practical ways that you do with your whānau, or any other ways you talk about money or how you can get ahead. I'm just going to ask the team, is there anything in the chat that we can highlight at the moment?
Let me have a look. There's something about, where was it? Oh, where did it go? Square One card. If you anything about that, was it? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Square One, it's a wonderful app that's out there that's there to provide whānau to help support their tamariki, to understand the concepts around earning money and what you can do with that money. So Square One is all app-based, so you get it on your phone or your iPad. And the cool thing about that is that, the kids, you set them up to do jobs, and with those jobs, they get paid X amount. And so you'll transfer money from your Square One account into their Square One account. And often the Square One account, they actually have a card as well. So I don't think they have a pay wave. It's been a while since I last seen it, but the core element or the learnings from Square One is to get kids to think about, when they earn money, what can they do with it, right? And one thing one of our other facilitators have is that she has her son, and they have like a business meeting, or they have like a family meeting after every week. They review with their son. He's only 5, but they take the opportunity to go, okay, cool. What goals have you made? Have you made your bed? He gets like 50 cents. Have you put the dishwasher away? He gets like another 20 cents. Those are sort of the dollar amounts you can get. But he's really a big fan of Hot Wheels. So what he does have in his Square One, you can set up a savings account where you have a goal. And I often think about, remember back in the 80s and 90s when you used to do fundraising, they would have the thermometer, and you would, when they fundraise, X amount of dollars, and the red would flow up right till you reach the goal. So the same thing applies when you're on the Square One app. You just put in your goal, you put in your amount. So it'll be Hot Wheels, and a Hot Wheel costs about $3, right? And every time you put money into your savings account, the image will start to fill up with a color or something like that. But it gets to a bar, and then you reach a goal, and then it celebrates going, hey, great stuff, you've reached the goal, and stuff like that. So really around, work and reward, if I think of it that way, in that aspect. So yeah.
So I've just put a link in for Square One. It says here, we're turning Kiwi kids into money maestros. There's another one from Esmond in terms of CashNav was a. Obviously that's a Westpac initiative there, but we haven't plugged that in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you, whānau, for raising that as well. So a lot of banks, or there's a lot of apps that are out there that help with sort of categorizing your habits, and make sure that your budgeting apps are there. So the thing with CashNav, which is a Westpac function that pairs up with our main online banking app, but what it does is just categorizes your spending. So we'll categorize what you're spending money on. So for example, if we think about like coffee spends, that tends to be a lot of the conversation around what we spend our money on, and sort of group them all together, right? Go, hey, X amount has been on the mortgage, X amount on food, and the next one on entertainment. But what it does is it just visualizes going, oh shoot, I've actually been spending a little bit too much. And if you do want to have a look at it, and if you are a Westpac customer, Sam will Google that and pop that link into that as well. But there are so many other ways that you can do that. And one thing I do like is that for those who are in mahi, and you're thinking about, man, we're only, what are we now? We're August, September, October, November, December. Literally, if we think about 3 months, maybe 4 months away from Christmas, probably a great time to think about, okay, what are we doing now? We'll forget about the last sort of 8 months now. They're done, they're past. But what are we going to do now, today, tomorrow, and working up to Christmas? Because when Christmas comes, whānau, we all love having a good time. We love to celebrate with our whānau, and there's going to be a lot of gifting in that space. Or if you're traveling across the motu, preparing yourself to either pay for an airline ticket or drive, which might be costly. So you might need to think about, hey, what can I do now to put money aside? And then that could be like opening up another account at another bank account, or getting payroll with your with your work to get them to pay into another separate account. So they can do the mahi for you, right? You don't have to worry about trying to automate it. You can just say to them, hey, and a lot of workplaces do their payrolls systems, or payroll departments have the opportunity, they should be, or hopefully can, accommodate with, sending money to another account. And you can say, hey, of my salary, can you put $50 into this account? Which that was just an example, but whatever amount you can afford.
I think you can set that up. Oh, don't quote me on this, was it? But I think we can set that up on behalf of a customer as well, right? You could have, yeah. So we can have a pay come in, but before the pay hits the account, we can have it split off to other accounts type things. So for rent or power or whatnot, or wherever you want it to go. So the funds that actually hit your main spending account once it comes through is pretty much after all expenses have been paid for, and savings and stuff gone out as well, right?
Absolutely, and that's called Payline Split. So if you want to look that up, whānau, you can give that a bit of a search. Payline Split. Other banks potentially might have something similar. The only closest thing I do, I think, is that what was it? ASB. Purchasing something, and you can set it up that it rounds it up to the nearest $10, $5, or whatever amount. So if it costs you like $53 and 50 cents, they'll put in the other $1.50, and you can ask them to round it up that and put that $1.50 into your savings account, so that what you see comes out of your account is $55, but $53.50 pays the shop, and then the other $1.50 goes automatically into that as well. So you can see how what they're trying to do is that behavior around trying to get things to be done automatically or through automation, but again, just really making sure that you do that as well. I'll be interested, whānau, to find out if anyone on the call here, still does things manually. Every week, every time they get paid, they just sit down for a few minutes, checks out their balances, and then pays their amount, all the expenses manually. So let me know and let us know if that's something that you do.
Yeah, I do that actually.
Oh,
If
yes.
it's not everything, but it's mostly I think what do I do? I transfer my loan, the amount of money I need to pay off my home loan and stuff. For some reason, I don't know. I guess I enjoy it.
Yeah.
If that's a bad thing, but I like to just kind of know that that's been done, and I've done it manually. I kind of feel accomplished type thing. But we've got most of the stuff is all automated, but for some reason I transfer the my mortgage repayments manually.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the opposite to you. Yeah, that's okay.
Oh.
The key thing here is that that's your habit. The key thing about that habit for you is that you feel good, right? You go in, manually transfer your amount into that loan, and you're like, loan payment. You're like, yeah, good, done. And that's the key thing, right? As long as that habit is working for you and you do it on a regular basis, that's really good. For the wife and I, we actually have our joint account, and that joint account pays the home loan, pays the rates, and all the water and all those other expenses there. And so with our salary, I've asked payroll to pay. We've just divided, we've worked out what the loan payment is. So if it was like the last one we had was our loan payment was $1,500 a fortnight. So we just paid $750 each of our pays. We paid that separately into that from our payrolls into that joint account. So it just means, okay, cool. When I see the salary that's left in my account, I go, okay, then I pay my little own expenses, my little individual expenses, whether it be Spotify, some of the subscriptions I look after and take care of. So I use that as the opportunity to and then again, I have another system with my own individual account where I've got automatic payments to other accounts, whether it be I've got a transport account, I've got entertainment account, I've got a boys account. Quite often the boys try to go on a trip away every couple of years, so we try to put money in there. We're trying to hopefully go to Vegas to see the Warriors, up the wires. So we're just trying to make sure that make sure we're putting money aside in that space as well. So that could look totally different, but a lot of that's automated for me. Just makes it a lot easier because we get so busy and stuff. But really nice to hear, Sam, that you still do it manually. Is anything come in the chat where whānau do things manually or let automatic payments do their thing in direct debits?
Nothing yet, but I know that I also do the whole like paying stuff manually. I shouldn't, but I do. I just feel like I'm actually accomplishing something by paying my bills manually. That and also like when you got a direct debit set up, it can sometimes take a lot more money than you expect to come out of your bank account. So
Yeah, and that's one key thing too, whānau, is that what Rach pointed out is that sometimes really being if you're focused on doing it manually, you can pick up on these things, right? And we, for all the systems and automations that we have, sometimes the computer doesn't always work, right? For whatever reason, sometimes there's a little bit of an error. So really important to keep an eagle eye on that as well. So yeah, that's awesome, Rach. Good to hear that you and Sam in that waka around keeping things manual and having that sense of accomplishment and just watching where your money goes, right? Because
sorry, there's a few people that have put a few things in the chat. So there's a couple who don't trust themselves to do it manually, which I totally understand. And then others who enjoy doing it manually, which I get completely.
100%.
And then others who do direct debit and AP, which there's actually quite a few.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing,
Thanks,
whānau.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly talk on both sides, whether you do it automatically or whether you do it manually. The key thing is that for you and your journey with money is that when you do that, that's good, right? I've got a system, and that system really works for you. So really nice to hear there's those two different sides, and there's no right or wrong to it. It's just different. And it's really important to go, hey, yeah, cool. But it could be an opportunity to maybe look on the other side and see if there might be something around those who are manual people. Maybe this might be some automation stuff that you might be able to take away. And those who love it doing things automatically, there could be some nice manual things that you could take away as a bit of a learn in there. And I think, oh man, I just had it at the top of my mind when Rachel, when you're speaking there around looking at money, thinking about money. Oh, whānau, hopefully it comes back to me by the end of the session. But the cool thing about the next step, right? We talked about money habits. We've spent a lot of time in that space around habits, because I'm really a big advocate to really set up your habits. Because if you think about it, right, we got habits, right? We go up, we wake up, we brush our teeth, we we have showers, we cook food, we drive the car, and all those sort of things are really automatic, right? The same thing as I want that to be with money. And whether that is where you might be thinking you're spending too much money on things that you might need to pull back on, hopefully this is a good starting point. Or if you're really good with money and you got things going really well, what else can I do? What's the next steps I can do with my habits? Can I now pass this on to someone else? But it really brings us into a nice part around your leak factor. And as you can tell with the wonderful hose there, is that water's leaking out of that hose. And how that applies to a situation around money is that there are so many leaks that you can have in your account, right? And I think, Rachel, I'm not picking on you, but I'm just thinking about your lovely game that you love to play, your opportunity to splurge and switch your brain off. But there's little spins because you have to, Rach, do you have to buy like certain things to upgrade your game? Is that what you have to do, or how do you spend money on it? Is it
So the coolest thing about this is that you're assuming it was me when I was trying to not put my husband in on it, but it was definitely my husband who played this game. But I think in the game there are, if I think about any games that I've played, there are little parts that you can purchase to make you go better in the game. And then you you don't need to spend, I don't know, another 200 hours trying to get to that point. So yes, definitely a leak factor.
Yes.
Microtransactions.
Microtransactions, you're right, Sam, absolutely. And those game developers are great at them, right? They design games where they create this awesome game or in-app game, and then within that app, my son's a big FIFA fan at the moment, so he plays it on his PlayStation, but also he gets me to click on this card pack, and then it opens up a pack, and in that pack there's all these players, and they have these certain levels, up to 100%. So he's often buying these packs to build up his card deck, so to speak, around that. And the same thing applies, right? No doubt there's other apps I think of Fortnite. You have to buy loots and upgrade skins and V-Bucks and all those sort of things, but then you can overlay that with generally and I do say coffee, and I feel sorry for coffee. They often get picked on as a leak factor because it's always the easiest one that you can pick up, right? And quite often when you go into the shop, how many times, if anyone, if we go to the shop and we say we're only going to buy the milk and bread, you go buy the milk and bread and you walk out, oh, why did I need all the why have I got a packet of biscuits, a fizzy drink or whatever, or a chocolate bar, and your packet of chips, and you're like, oh, I only went up to go get the milk and bread. And stuff. So really around, hey, those all form that sort of leak factor, right? Because that's another maybe $13, $15, $20 that you didn't have to spend, but you ended up spending it, right? So really being able to identify what those leak factors are, and then thinking about how can I change them, right? How can I plug those leak factors? And if you are someone who loves coffee, and I did a workshop before where the person said to me, Wazza, with coffee, I love my coffee, but I don't spend all my money on buying lunch every day or any other things. But my treat to myself is that I buy coffee every day. So they offset that by not buying, takeaways or lunch every day or any other sort of elements where they think that's a leak factor. They happily spend their sort of money on coffee. And again, we're not the finance police. I'm not here to tell you don't spend your money on those things, but it's here just to get you guys thinking around, hey, is this a leak? And is this a money leak that I can look to plug up? And really brings us into that part around how you can maybe look at ways to stop spending leaks. And I really hope, I want you guys to use that chat function again. pop in there what your leak factors are, and if you have a leak in your money system or your money sort of journey, what are you doing to try stop those leaks? Or if you see a leak in that whānau, what are you doing to sort of maybe share some thoughts and ideas, on the screen, again, picking on the coffee, but this one here, how you could plug it is that you can make your own at home, right? Potentially you're making your own. It's not as good as buying a nice coffee that someone's made for you, right? Roasted coffees, and you get the smell of the aroma and the coffee in the air compared to doing it at home. Or if you're lucky enough you've got a coffee machine at work, is an opportunity to maybe do, of the 5 days that you buy coffee, maybe do 3 days that you buy coffee, and in 2 days you make them at work. Just an idea. And you got other one, popping up to the dairy to top up the pantry. Funny thing is that we're all supermarkets are so close by nowadays, right? Or you can just Uber it, or you can just order it online and off you go, right? So for us, how we do it is that we actually make sure that meal planning is really tight, and that meal planning, and then we actually make sure that we run our food down. And when I say run our food down, we make sure that pantry or that cupboard of ours is nearly empty, right? And often encourage the kids, man, hey, if you're still hungry, there's a tin of corned beef, or there's a tin of spaghetti, tin of baked beans, open it, get the bread out, make a toasted sandwich, or make a veg. I remember my family, mum and dad used to say to us, we used to have Vegemite, if anyone remembers, we used to grill, we used to get the bread, and we used to butter it, and then we used to get, sometimes we had cheese, so we put Vegemite in cheese, and you used to have like grilled toasted, if anyone remembers that, man, we used to do that quite often. And I'm trying to tell the kids, and the kids are like, ooh, yeah, Vegemite and cheese toasted like on a grill. So yeah, my kids are very, very, very lucky, I must say. But for us back in the days, that was the cream of the top for us to make sure that we had a treat there. Sam, what were you going to jump in with?
I was just going to say, speaking of sandwiches, we used to have tomato sauce sandwiches. Not quite as luxurious as what you just said, was it? But
hey, don't you worry.
Enough.
I do remember we used to have do you remember luncheon ham? If we had the opportunity, mum and dad could buy luncheon ham, they would do that, and tomato sauce. So yeah, we used to do, and like lunch boxes. I was saying to someone the other day, like, man, look at kids today, right? They have like Sistema lunch boxes, or they got like a branded, like a Batman sort of zip up bag and drink bottle. Man, mum and dad just used to chuck our sandwiches in the bread bag. You just tie the knot and go, off you go. So yeah, really funny how things have changed for our children, or especially my children, in that space. So yeah, hopefully people can relate to those times where we just lived, and whatever resources we had right, in that space. One us a leak factor for myself, right, is that I'm a big fan. I did talk about Hot Wheels, and I might have talked about it before, but I do like collecting like Hot Wheels and action figures, and maybe that comes from when I was a young person, right? Our parents couldn't afford it, couldn't afford Hot Wheels or that, GI Joes or Transformers. So now, as a middle-aged man, I quite often like to buy the odd action figure and Hot Wheels. So what I do is I've got a portion of my budget where I put money aside for that, and I put it into another account. I actually got an account, and I've got got an image on it, and it just reminds me, okay, that's my toy money, so to speak, and then I get to spend that, no guilt-free on that there. And my partner's like, man, you got another package. Okay, don't worry, babe, it's part of my budget. I put it away. I usually try to find something that's on special, so I try not to wait until it's buy it straight away in that space. Any other leak factors that potentially people can hopefully I think if you think about a leak factor, if you come back to that point around putting money aside, right, as a savings, right, you can frame it up by saying, hey, put money into a savings account, tell your mind, or frame it up, okay, it's a bill. Often that hopefully should keep it at bay, or put in another account. But actually, if you still have it in your account, and you put money in and you're taking money out, that's not really savings, so that is a form of leaking, or money leak, because you're putting money in. So you put $100 in that week, and then the weekend's coming, you're like, oh, I'm going out with my friends, I just transferred $50 because I know I'll need it. And then before you know it, on Sunday, you're like, oh, I'm a bit worse for wear, I'm going to go buy me something from McDonald's, buy me some Powerades and something like that. You spend another $30. Before you know it, in that savings account, you only got $20 left, but you started off with 100. So the best thing you could do is to help that leak is that, okay, I'll transfer $20 in there. leave that $80 in there to spend on the weekend, whatever you might do with it. But it just means that, okay, I'll start with $20. And then again, slowly build that up, right? And then you go, okay, I've done $20 for, say, 2 months. Let's try and increase that to $25. Add another $5. Add again, just put it into slow increments, because then that habit will change, and then it'll get you thinking, going, oh, actually, I've built something really quickly in that space. For Rach and Sam, is there any leak factors that you've got across your spending that you can share with the team, and what you've done to plug it, or what you're hoping to plug it with, or you're still in that process?
Man, my biggest one is buying lunch every flipping day, going to the bakery. Grumpy Baker, it's real good. And all I need to do is either bring to work my leftover dinner from the night before, just make a tomato sauce sandwich to bring to work. But for whatever reason, I don't, and then I find myself buying a $6.50 pie.
Or what? Here's
Price has
another
gone up as
option.
well.
It is. Here's another option, Sam. If you do love pies, quite often the supermarket have the big branded family pack pies, right? You can buy. Was it big? Is it?
What's the place you like? Was the Coupland's Bakery?
Oh yeah,
I should
Coupland's
go there,
Bakery.
eh?
You should go there, buy a family pack of pies, and then just bring the pie and chuck it in the microwave, right? And before you know it,
Yeah.
you've only spent, say, $10, and you bought yourself a 15-pack pie. I don't even know if it costs that much, but
Thing with
you get
that
the
is
idea.
I'll probably eat the whole pie, family size pie, instead of just a small pie.
Yeah, okay, Whānau. So what we're hearing and what we're describing from Sam is discipline. We need to apply some discipline here with you, Sam. But again, that's really interesting, right? You got habits and you got discipline. Once you marry those two things up really well, that's going to set you up for success. But hopefully, Sam, next time we catch up, is that you can tell me that you've eased up and maybe done 3 days at Grumpy's Bakery and then 2 days bringing lunch from home. That could be a good start.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Nice. And how about for you, Rach? Anything from that leak, those stories around leaking, or what you guys are seeing, spending leaks at the moment?
I can definitely have a lot of stories around leaks. If you go into like savings, not so much, but no, leaking probably coffees, probably the vanilla latte I like. But I could probably, I could probably do coffee at work instead, and that would probably save a lot of money, like Makona with, I don't know, something. But that would at least save me a lot of money, because it costs a lot to have coffee each day.
Yeah, absolutely. And with coffee in Hamilton, how much is it at the moment? What are you getting charged at the minute?
Oof. Hamilton would be $6-ish, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's enough to make a difference, and in fairness, it's probably enough to warrant not spending on that, because I could spend on much better things that
Yeah.
is a lot more better for my family.
True. But I am a big advocate of balancing it, right? Moderation, and it could be just like Sam. Instead of doing 5 days at Grumpy's, you can do bakery. You can do 3 days of buying your coffee, because you don't want to take that element away, right? And I'm really
Yeah.
big on enjoying life, because when you earn money, right, family, it's really important to you work hard for it, right? So you should be able to spend it on things, and life is to be enjoyed. Earning money is to be enjoyed with either yourself or your whānau. So making sure that you're balancing that out and going, hey, I do 5 days of coffee buying, maybe I could do 3. Start with 3, or maybe start with 4 days. Maybe one day you have your coffee at work and stuff, but just balancing it out. And then with that money that you don't spend on the coffee, that's the opportunity to either save it, put it towards debt, or do something else with it that might be of good use of somehow, some way in that space. And is anything coming through the chat team around whānau identifying any leaks that they have called out that they might want some help on, or anything that they've been working on and getting it plugged up?
Teenagers classed as leaks, was it?
100%. Whānau, I 1000% agree with you. Yeah, I've got my two teenagers kids at home, 17 and 15. Yeah, they certainly eat us out of house and home and stuff. But fortunate enough that the 17-year-old, he's working part-time at New World, so he is contributing somewhat, and I'm not too hard on him on his contribution, where previously before when I worked, I used to give part of my money to help our whānau, but I get him to buy, the milk and wheat bix is his contribution to the household, is to buy milk and buy wheat bix for us there as well.
Does he have his wheat bix with hot water? Does he make them soggy? Save a little bit of milk?
Yeah, save a bit of milk. Yeah. I do remember those days where I used to have wheat bix in hot water. So, finding ways where you can save money, right? And I always think about my parents, right, being really resourceful around that as well. And I might have lost a little bit of that because, what do they say that this day and age, right? This era of living at the moment where we're death by comfort, as someone said to me one time, is that everything's very easy, right? Everything's on a convenience. We can go on our apps, we can go you can Uber Eats anything and all those sort of things, right? Temu, you buy low value items, like you can shop. What is it Temu's saying is shop like a billionaire? It's crazy, right? And all those sort of things. But yeah, totally tautoko around teenagers are a leak, and hopefully in building them up around, hey, money doesn't grow on trees. And one thing, the conversation I used to hear quite often, right, and is that I can't afford it. They tell the kids, we can't afford it. One thing you could look to change that narrative or change that language is like, hey, that's not in the budget, so we can't get it today, but let's look at that later. So if you come to me with around what does that look like in our budget, how much does it work out to be, we can see if it fits in the budget. So again, changing that language, changing that wording, instead of saying, we can't afford it, really puts us in the back foot. But actually, if you reframe that wording to saying, hey, sorry son, sorry sweetie, that's not within the budget, so we can't get it today, but let's take it away, record how much it costs, and we'll take it away and see what we need to do to break down to see if we can pick it up or purchase it the next time. So hopefully that's something to consider, whānau, is around changing that language or that narrative on how we say and how we talk about pūtea in that space. And I did see a research, and was it I think the team will pop that in the chat function already, but it was the research, a New Zealand Herald article from earlier this year, but it was a Trade Me survey of 4,000 of their members, and on average they found that all of us or Kiwis have about sort of $1,300 or $1,400, up between $1,300 to $1,400 worth of unwanted items or goods in their house that they can sell. So that's an opportunity to think, hey, if you look around your whare, if you are at home now, have a look around, look left and right, look up, look over the phone screen or look over the laptop and go, oh man, that thing's been sitting there for 6 months, I haven't used it. Is it an opportunity to sell it, right? And you might sell it at a loss, but it's then or might get a bit of a gain, right, depending on how rare it is. But it is an opportunity to think about, hey, sometimes around spending leaks, you plug it, but actually I might need to find some other money to make sure that I'm supporting the lifestyle I want to live, or support myself to get myself out of a situation. What can I do? Quite often, we're good consumers, us Kiwis. So there is some stuff in your whare that potentially that the survey talks about, is that you got unwanted goods that you can take away, that you can sell. And like Christmas is a really good example, right? How often do we see the news the next day talk about unwanted gifts? There's a massive spike in Trade Me listings because there's unwanted gifts people put on there from Christmas and stuff like that. So taking the opportunity to think about it. And I do. I've been listening to podcasts, and there's one by Keep the Change, and Luke Kimmy's is his name, Kiwi guy, and often he says that there is money. I know that money's tight, but there is still money that is out there, and you just need to gain access to it. And how you gain access to it is potentially that could be. I've mentioned it before, is that if you got young kids, and those who said you got teenage kids, maybe it's got opportunity to go, hey, if you want to earn some money, get out there and see if you maybe go mow some lawns or do some landscaping with our neighbors or down the street. Or you might have senior people living in your neighborhood down the street that you know of, that you talk to. You go, hey, can I take your rubbish bin out for you every week or every fortnight? And if you don't mind, will you pay me $5 to do that? So again, just thinking about, there's money to be made. People are happy to part with the money if you can provide them with a service, or you can provide them with convenience, or you can provide them with some value add. And that value add could be like the example, maybe mowing the lawns. I was talking again, that workshop I had with a business, they talked about her son last year. They managed to find a secondhand water blaster, put their money together. Him and his mate found a secondhand water blaster, and they started going around, knocking on the doors around their street, going, "Hey, yeah, $20 and we'll water blast your driveway for you." So so whānau, thinking around entrepreneurship, but also, thinking about, hey, is there money? Is there another way I can access money? Quite often people say, oh, money was it? There's like I'm not earning as much as possible, but it could be either, hey, is there anything else I can do? Is there stuff, potentially depending on your family situation, could you potentially look at maybe doing stuff after hours or before work hours that could help, right? And if you're really good with your hands, you're really good at arts and craft, are you good at making earrings? The last one we did, workshop we did with Waikato Tānui, there was so many of whānau, they were doing other things, right? Because often they say, a lot of millionaires or people who are really wealthy, they actually have different streams of income, so other forms of income coming through, not just their main salary. So they're doing a little bit of side hustles. And remember, Sam, and I think he purchased one of the items. This young guy, he was doing drop shipping, and with that drop shipping, he was drop shipping earbuds, like gaming earbuds. And what was it? I remember Sam saying, "Oh, let me know what your website is, and I'll go ahead and buy one." So he had set up a little website, and he set up a little gaming earbud website, and then he was charging like $30. But no doubt he probably got it really cheap in the first place, but he would have made some really good margin on there. So Sam, how's those earbuds going? Those gaming earbuds? Did you manage to use them and utilize them?
They never showed up actually.
All right, fine. Okay, fine. I'm not saying that it's a scam, but really, really important to follow up on that piece. Is there anything else?
What I did do with that was I bought them on my debit card, and on my debit card I've got I usually transfer funds into that account, and then make the purchases. So I don't know if it is a scam, then they try to scam my debit card. At least there's nothing in there, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I only transfer the funds and then make the payment, and then kind of wait for it to show up. But
cool.
Sorry that I'm sure they would have been great AirPods though. They've shown up.
All right. Yeah, definitely. And I'm just going to say, sorry, whānau, that's an epic fail of my storytelling, where it hasn't worked out stuff. But I guess the cool part, the learning for that is that, Sam had opened, because it's a separate account, and you've got a separate account, separate card. And this is for those types of purchases. So there you go, whānau. So could be a good opportunity. You have a separate account, a separate card, and if you are wanting to make purchases, you just put your money in there, whether it be $30, $40, or whatever amount that you're purchasing. And if you've got a funny feeling that it might not turn up, at least they won't have any more access to your money. So good stuff. I do like that little setup that you do, Sam. And is there anything else coming through the chat around, apart from teenagers, anything else around spinning leaks that whānau have shared with us?
There was, I think Tanya was saying, just going back a little bit here, was it? But don't take any money to work, or leave your wallet at home type thing. Therefore, it takes away all the I guess temptation. Ability to temptation. There we go, temptation to spend money.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then if there's an opportunity to get free kai at work, man, I'm always there. If there's a morning tea, I'm usually I'm always there at work, and I'm there for morning tea. So if work offer anything like that, take advantage of it. And even if there's benefits, right? Some big corporates or big companies across the motu tend to have friends and family benefits. So you might get a discount from No Lemmings, or you might get a discount from a big retailer. See if you can get access to that and the like. Even if you have insurance, right? Sometimes your insurers have relationships with other companies where you can gain access. There's that one. Was it a lot of the like Mitre 10, Bunnings, if you find the item of a similar price, you get 10% off. Well, not 10% off. Take advantage of that, right? And coming back to those money habits or good money habits again, and coming back to if those big box retailers. No Lemurs is the one I'm going to say, is that, when you're in there and you're looking at buying a big ticket item, you might need to upgrade your fridge or your oven or your TV in the near future. Always ask the question, is this the best price? That's all you got to ask them. That's a good habit to say to them. Is that a good price? Is that the best price you can do? And quite often, more often than not, the person will probably go, hey, let me talk to my manager, and then they'll come back and go, oh yeah, hey, we can knock 10% off, and stuff. And another one is, with Briscoes, gotta love the Briscoes lady on the TV ads. Do not shop at Briscoes when it's not a special. You should be only buying things on special at Briscoes. And quite often Briscoes has a sale nearly every single weekend, right? So a good opportunity to make sure that you're not buying anything at full price at Briscoes. Make sure that you're buying it on special. What else? Other good habits are making sure that you're utilizing, the discounts around fuel. I think you'll see, like on a Wednesday, actually, there's a habit that Z Station do, Z and Caltex, because they're the same company, but they tend to, on a Wednesday, they tend to have their 10 cents off. Usually on a Wednesday, their one day only 10 cents off is always on a Wednesday. So keep an eye on that. Someone else mentioned to me before that Gull, they usually send text alerts out for those who like to use Gull fuel. They often send their text alerts out saying when they're 10 cents days, and they tend to be a Thursday. And again, using those cards, right? Those reward cards like Flybys. I know they're closing up at the end of this year, but maximize them, right? Utilize, you can stack the discounts on those Flyby cards as well. What else? Sometimes doing those surveys. I remember doing years ago, I signed up to fill out surveys, and I used to get Flyby points with them. And so often I would try to do the survey as quick as possible so I can gain the usually will be like five Flybys points and that sort of jazz. So often I know there are survey companies that get you to come in. I think is it Canstar, not Canstar, getting mixed up with the name, but there's a real big survey provider out there that gets a lot of people to go on their books, and then they get them to do that as well. Or if you've got beautiful fur babies, could be a good option to maybe put them into TV ads, right? There's so many ads that have animals in them. Sign them up to an agency and see if that could be another way to get money coming in. Or even yourself, if you want to sign yourself up to an agency and see if that might be an opportunity to get you in front of the TV or radio. And if you're comfortable in doing that, then utilize that skill you might have to do that as well. So good money habits. All right. So on the screen here, so be clear on why you're budgeting. And I think that's really important, right? Is the key thing is that whether it be a budget, whether it be your money plan, whether it be paying your debt off, saving for your first home, just being better with your money, always being clear, always understanding your why. Once you know your why, that's really going to drive you, and it's going to motivate you, because I like to say that our brain and our body loves progress, and by doing progress and reaching our goals, our body starts to release all those good chemicals, right? Endorphins. It makes us feel good, and it makes us feel like, hey, I've achieved something, I've accomplished something. I want to feel that feeling again. I want to do that again. And then one thing, if I was to talk about sort of money around paying debt off, and if any of our whānau are carrying debt off, or you got kids, or someone is, there's Dave Ramsey again. So look up Dave Ramsey, but he talks about two methods around paying debt off. So he talks about the avalanche method, and he talks about the snowball method. And when you think about the two methods, right, and when you think of them, their action and what it does, right? If you think of an avalanche, when an avalanche happens, literally the big ass ice breaks off wherever it is and just drops down, right? And that's an avalanche. Then you got a snowball, and what happens with a snowball? It starts small, and it slowly builds and rolls down the mountain. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And how that applies from paying off debt is that when you look at a avalanche method, you often pull out all your debt. And you see what avalanche method is telling you what to do is to pay off your highest interest rate. Whatever lending has the highest interest rate. So if you've got a credit card, an overdraft, and a personal loan, for example, you sort of line them up and go, okay, which one's paying me the biggest interest rate? Traditionally, the credit card will probably be charging you the higher interest rate at 20%. So you want to be paying all the minimums on the other ones, on the other two loans or lending products, and then focusing a lot of money and paying above the minimum for the one that's got the higher interest rate. Once that's paid off, move that money that you've paid into that to the next interest rate, the next interest rate, which will be your what was that? Hit your overdraft, right? So there'll be your overdraft. And once you've paid that off, then take that minimum payment, all that money you've paid in the other two loans, put that into the next debt, which will be your personal loan, if I had that right. Yep, and then pay that off. So that's called avalanche method. The snowball effect. Snowball method, very much if you think of it from a small amount, so you pay your smallest balance that you owe at the moment, right? So that, let's say again, there'll be credit card, personal loan, and overdraft. Let's say it's your overdraft. You say you got a $500 overdraft. Focus on paying that $500 overdraft off, and with the overdraft, really encourage get rid of it. Try your best not to borrow money, because often I like to say is that when you borrow money, you're robbing your future salary or your future income, literally, because your next income comes and you have to pay it off. So again, once you've paid that $500 overdraft off, move to the credit card. And if you've got a $2,000 credit card, all that money you put into the overdraft to pay it off, put that into the credit card, pay that $2,000 off. If you're still stuck on going, hey, I want to keep my credit card, that's good, but maybe look at reducing the limit, right? Reducing that limit down from a $2,000 limit down to maybe up, depends on what you can manage, right? Whether it be $500, $700, $800, or $1,000, primarily $500, because I think that's the minimum you can go on a credit card nowadays. So pay that off and then move on to paying paying off the personal loan, which will be, say, $5,000, and then use all that money that you've used to pay off your credit card and your overdraft and focus on smashing out that personal loan. And then that's all that snowball effect. And again, that's those habits, because it all enables you to think about that as well. Sam, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I've been doing that actually. Because with the credit card, you can, I don't know, if you've got money on it, you can reduce it to match the balance that's owing type thing, and kind of, as you say, a snowball effect. So that's something I've been trying to do currently.
Awesome.
Rather than paying off in lump sum, so you can kind of just pay it off at $500 here and there, then reduce the limit, and then start again type thing.
Yeah, and it's amazing, right? Because once you take that temptation or that buffer, once you pay that $500 off, because quite often you look at it and go, oh man, I'll just whack the petrol on here, or I'll buy something here, and then before you know it, you've spent up to that $500. But the habit that you're doing and paying that $500 off and then getting the bank to reduce your limit is really good. So keep going, and hopefully that's going to be, by the time things roll around, you're setting yourself up. So that's really nice. I like that. And again, whānau, just pop in the chat function if there's anything that I've said or Sam or Rach has said that sparked of interest, or anything that you've come across in your own money journey. Because often I do like to say is that the knowledge is in the room. It's all about just sharing that knowledge and understanding it. The other one around money habits is be honest. I think if you find yourself that you're in financial stress, this is the opportunity. This is the time to sit down and go, man, you know what? I'm in trouble. I need to get this sorted. How am I going to do this? And that's a couple of things, right? You can either reach out to your bank, reach out to family and friends that can support you, who might have a bit of, debt management know-how, who might be able to help support you through that. But that's probably the first step, is to be honest. Make sure that, hey, am I being realistic? Am I being realistic to myself? Can I do this? Can I afford this? If I can't, all right, what do I need to stop to make sure that I can potentially get into the right track there? And what you can do to sort of help with that honesty is that spending diary. And that spending diary is actually taking the opportunity maybe at the end of the week, and I spoke about this before, on a Sunday afternoon, if you've got a free moment, or any time during the week, wherever you get your free moment, right? Take the opportunity. If you're having lunch and you're scrolling on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchatting, have a bit of a pause. Just put that pause away. Just have a look at your transactions, right? Just check what you've done for the last 7 days, and hopefully that's an opportunity to think about, oh shoot, I've actually probably spent more than I've actually than I needed to. So really important to think about that as well. Any other good habits? We're going to probably step into the one I've pulled from a sorted website, which we're going to talk about the 6 habits. Oh yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that like when things are hard, the bank usually is pretty good. Like, so if you engage with the bank as soon as possible, and I've been in this position years ago as well, they will do everything they can to help. So just make sure that you do reach out to the bank, whoever you bank with, they will help you out if you're in this position where you're struggling. And we're in these times where things are hard. So definitely do reach out to the bank.
Yeah, certainly to talk with that, Rach. Thank you. So yeah, definitely reach out to the bank sooner rather than later, right? Don't let it spiral out of control and then it gets too hard, potentially for the bank to assist. So try to get ahead of it and just go, hey man, either reduced hours or these have happened in my life. It's going to make it really troublesome for me to make payments on my loans. What can you do? Because a lot of the banks nowadays have specialized teams to put you through, which they can then review your situation, look at what's possible, and that could probably mean you might pay less than the minimum payment, right? So if your loan payment's $50, they potentially could say, hey, based on this in your situation, we could maybe reduce it down to $20 a week in that space. It just means that you might end up paying a little bit more in interest, but it just means you won't find yourself in trouble where the bank has to put a default on your name and coming back to that credit report and those sort of things that that will lessen the impact on potentially any future borrowings in that space. All right, Whānau, I can't believe that we're getting closer.
Hey, Waza.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, Divya here.
Hey.
I just had one more thing to add, and I don't know whether this is going to work for everyone, but it seems to be working for me. So I usually have my spending account, which has X amount in it, and then I have another because I cannot for the life of me get the right amount into my spending account. So I have another account where I put a little bit of a buffer in and it kind of builds up. So anything I don't spend from my spending account, I transfer into there for a month or a fortnight where I might need to spend extra or I've gone out for dinners more often than I normally would. And I transfer over between them. So they're both kind of like checking accounts, but I'm not forcing myself to use all of my balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like an overflow. You got like an overflow kind of account where like you put money in there and then if there's a little bit extra, you just do you do that manually? Is that
it's like an emergency fund account,
Yeah, absolutely. Just like good habit number one. So you are on the right track there, Divya, and I think that's a really nice call out. And apologies, I didn't see you on the call. So, was there anything across the last couple of slides that you picked up on that you might want to share, or any other insights that
No, I
Whānau
think
might find interesting?
Rach and Sam have been covering it pretty well, so I haven't felt the need to jump in yet.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for jumping in there and picking up on that. And again, Whānau, I think that's really nice. Interesting what Divya does, right? That overflow account or having another check account, just like Sam has that other check account, which is separate, right? It has a separate card. For Divya, it's like, hey, I have this other account where I let it build up over a certain time. And then if there's any sort of unexpected expenses where I've maybe overspent or potentially I need to pay for a little bit, I've got a little bit of a buffer. So, and those amounts don't have to be big, Whānau. The key thing here is that it doesn't have to be massive. Like, it doesn't have to put $30 in there. If it's $3, just put $3 in there. If it's $2.50, just put $2.50 there. If it's $10, just put $10 in there. Whatever amount that you can do to put into the account, that's going to help create that habit, right? And again, remember, 66 days to create a habit or to set a habit up. So you want to make sure that you're doing that on a regular basis and as frequently as often as possible as well. So this one here is from Sorted. So this one here is really, I'm just going to pop them all up on screen. So all 6 screens, and I'll talk them through. So pretty much start an emergency fund. I was talking to the Retirement Commission a couple of weeks back, and they're talking about what next year is going to look like around Money Month, because we're in the middle of Money Month, and Money Month, the theme for Money Month is around pause, get sorted. So really taking that moment to having the moment to reflect on what you're spending your money on, or what goals that you've got, where do you want to go. But what they sort of talked about is maybe what is have savings. We've seen stats and data and surveys and research telling us that a lot of Kiwis don't have an emergency fund set up, right? A lot of whānau and us don't have like $500 set up as an emergency fund. So that's going to be step one to set yourself up for success and set you up for some good money habits, is to set up that emergency fund. And again, using the element around start small, put money aside. If you do it manually or automatically, just make sure it's a nice small amount, because you don't want to go too hard too fast, and then you're winding it all back because you're finding yourself demotivated because you're like, oh, I put $200 away, but I've actually transferred back like $190, is only $10 in there. Whereas if you started with $10 and then over a period of time, say 19 weeks, over that each week, over 19 weeks, that $10 you put in, you get to $190. There you go. So that's going to be the element where it's going to take some time. But again, coming back to Sam's point around discipline, habits, but starting small, right? And you're probably getting sick of me talking about habits and stuff, but I'm really big on that. Get your KiwiSaver on track. That's number 2. KiwiSaver is your vehicle to investments. And, if anyone says, are you an investor? You are an investor. So anyone who has a KiwiSaver, technically you are an investor. And the key thing around keeping your KiwiSaver on track is that you're making sure if you are in employment or you're in mahi, make sure that you're putting in the minimum amount of 3%, your employer does 3%, and as well as that you're maximizing and the government contribution. So the government gives you money for putting money into your KiwiSaver. Years ago, they used to give you dollar for dollar, and as long as you met the criteria, which was capped at like $1,042.80 something cents, don't quote me, but it'd be very similar to that. It works out to be like $20 a week. So what you'll do is that the government will pay X amount. So at the moment, that's half of that 1,042. It's like $520 that they put in your account every year free. So you really want to make sure you're maximizing that as well. And then if you do have the opportunity, I know a lot of people, when they got pay rises or they had an increase in their hourly wage, is that they use that amount and they put that into their KiwiSaver. Because they got so used to their normal salary or the salary that they got paid, they actually just like, you know what, that increase, I'm just going to put it away. Or you might have heard us talk about the ones where you might be manually putting money in, right? Whether it be, if you don't like seeing the dollars and cents, just put that manually transfer that into your KiwiSaver. Number 3, tackle debt. And that's really a big focus, like Rach talked about. Making sure you're getting ahead of it as soon as possible, sooner rather than later. Making sure you're talking to it might not be your bank if you're lending at somewhere else. Talk to those providers and make sure that you're having a good conversation around, hey, if you're in financial stress, where to get help and assistance from. Number 4, cover your people, money, and stuff. And what that means is that, make sure you have the right level of insurance cover. And I know you're probably saying to me, I can't even afford insurance, or that insurance is really hard, or you're like, oh, I've got insurance, but I'm not sure if it's the right thing. What you could do is take the opportunity again to like pause, get sorted, but take the opportunity to think about the right level of cover, right? And when you think of insurance, it's not about, because often we see this, right? And Divya and Rach and Sam will probably attest to this, is that, as bankers, often people, when they're looking at the expenses to cut, often this is insurance. Insurance is always the first to go. So really encourage you to, review your insurance. And that could be, if you've got a car and you've had it for like 5 years and it's been insured, like you've had it insured for an agreed value, say you got it for like 15 grand and it's like 5 years on, and that car's probably not worth 15 grand as it is today, depending on the make and model, but generally that car might be worth only maybe 6-7 grand, but you're still paying cover for a vehicle that's valued at 15 grand. So you might say to the insurance company, the car insurance company, actually, can you reduce that $15,000 cover down to 7 grand on what my car's valued at? And that's probably going to reduce your premiums or your amount you pay to your car insurance. And the same thing applies for life insurance, and contents insurance. House insurance, probably a really good one to do, because if you think about all the climate change that's happening at the moment, you want to make sure that the sum insured for your house is the right level. So if anything was to happen, that it's covering everything off. And coming back to your life cover, you might have got life cover off originally for like $500,000, but you're thinking, well, actually, I don't have a lot of debt now. Maybe I only need $200,000, $100,000. And again, because once you get rid of life cover and you've had it for a while, if you get life cover again, they're going to have to ask you all the medical questions. Potentially during that time, you might have picked up a condition, which might mean, they might not cover you, or they say they're going to cover you, but the premiums are going to be higher. So quite often, with life cover, take the opportunity to think about, hey, do I need all of that life cover that I originally signed up for? Can I reduce that down to an amount that's going to either help set my family up or pay any remaining debt off or support them should they require it in their space? And number 5, work out your retirement number. And what they mean by that is actually figuring out what age are you happy to retire at? And traditionally in New Zealand, or here in Aotearoa, 65 is that retirement age, right? But we are living longer, we are working longer beyond that as well. My mum, she's 66 this year, and she's still working, right? She's a case manager there here in our local Pakuranga community link office. So she's been doing that for many years, but she still wants to keep working. Mum goes, oh, I'm probably going to work till I'm 70, son. I'm like, wow, okay. So for my mum, she's just going to keep working, right? So she gets her super plus she gets her work. So her work income. So it just shows, when do you want to retire? And the cool thing about retirement, we'll probably hopefully cover this off later on in the next couple of weeks, but often I say, you should calculate how many salaries you have to retire. And a quick activity whānau before we start to wrap things up is that what you could do is, count how many salaries, and what you want to do is based on, let's say, for example, you want to, retire at 65, and say you get paid fortnightly, and what happens is that each fortnight, right there, how many fortnights in the year? There's 26. So you go 65 less your current age. For me, the example is 65 less 40. So I've got 25 years left. So you go 25 times 26, and then that works out how many salaries or how many fortnight pays I have before I retire. And rather than saying how many years, because when you say how many years do you retire, sounds a long time, right? 25 years, I'm like, man, that's a long time. But when I've quantified it and put it based on how many salaries I've have left, I was like, oh, it's not much actually. And it might be even less if I choose to try retire in my 50s, right? Or my late 50s and stuff like that. So again, if you get paid weekly, based it on, based it on 50, 52, and if you get paid monthly, based it on 12. So yeah, try that activity with yourself or your whānau and think about, hey, how many years or how many salaries or how many pays do I have before I retire? And then number 6 is to set your goals and then reach them. And that's the key part, is that final part, is if that goal, make sure it's achievable and it's reachable, that you can actually make sure you get that goal, whether it be going on a trip, whether it be paying off debt, whether it be making sure your mokopuna or your tamariki are all set up, or you're setting them up for success, that you got a why and you got a reason to do that. In that space. And then the links that Rachel Sam would have popped in the chat function would show you that article, and it gives a bit more in depth each of those 6 steps to making sure you're getting your money sorted, actually setting yourself up for good habits there as well. And what we talk about in this part here is your bank is to really investigate how else your bank can help you, right? Whether it be on the website, whether it be on their phone banking app, there's so many functions on the banking app now that you can do, right? You can open up another account quite quickly and easily. You don't often have to go in the branch. You can, block your card, change your PIN number, get your bank statements, switch bank statements off, because quite often any whānau who might be still getting paper statements, maybe a good opportunity to maybe look at digitizing that, because, there is a cost sometimes to generate that, and it's getting more expensive to do that for banks. So quite often they'll end up charging you to do that. So think of those things as well. And what we'll do is in my email summary, I'll when I provide that through Tanya and the team, I'll add a bit of a document where you can think about your bank and automated payments and that sort of jazz in that space. And this one here was a bit of a case study around Lisa and John, someone who's in their 30s quite often, but I'm just going to have this on the screen there, but we've canvassed this really well in relation to, what you can do around your money, whether you're trying to save for a holiday, pay debt off, maybe putting money aside to pay for a deposit on a house. So that's really important. Okay, whānau, I just want to say on behalf of myself, Rach, Sam, and Divya from Westpac, we just want to say thank you so much for lending us your ear and your time to join us tonight to be in today's workshop. And I do apologize if this workshop has been repeated, because I was just looking before when we were doing it. And if it has been repeated, I do apologize. We will look to do that workshop again. But if it hasn't, if it is repeated, hopefully the second time is a real key message to reiterate the message around having good money habits. So I'm going to ask Tiro to pop back on screen. And is there anything in the chat function, team, that we might want to highlight, or any partai for me or you guys?
No, no.
Cool.
All good there,
whānau,
Water.
Thank you, Sam. And whānau, take the opportunity to, give us your feedback via the survey. So if you've got your phone there, use the QR code, and that will be, you can easily scan that. Make sure your internet's on, either phone data or your Wi-Fi at home, and you'll be able to use that. It's all anonymous, so we'd love to hear your feedback on tonight's workshop in that space.
Ka pai kei runga noa atu ki a koutou. Nā reira, ngā mihi mata kui ki a koe, Warren, rātou ko Sam, ko Rach, ko Divya, e arataki a mātou, i roto tēnei ki au te ao pūtea, ki te toha ngā rauimi, ngā kōrero, o tira ki a koutou katoa, ko hono mai nei i tēnei ki haura, tēnā rā koutou. Me whakakapi i roto I te karakia, me karakia tātou, mai te timatanga ki te whakamitunga ki runga, ki raro, ki roto, ki waho, hau, pai mārire, kia pai te pō.
Kia ora. All right, whānau, guys, have a good evening. Have a great fortnight, and we'll see you guys for the next workshop. I hope to see all of you guys back again, but really appreciate the kōrero in the chat and all the insights and views. So thank you very much, whānau. Ka kite anō.